When the tide goes out, the table is set. And you are on a beach at low tide, somewhere in what is now British Columbia, Canada. It's 1,000 years ago, the year 1020. Beautiful early April day. You're eating some oysters, the Olympia variety of oysters. They're tiny little things. They have sort of a coppery mineral taste, but they are plentiful beyond belief. And in fact, your tribe and all the neighboring tribes enjoy great wealth relative to other indigenous peoples in the Americas, perhaps because of this bounty. Sea urchins, limpets, chitons. Some people say chittens. So you got abalone, sea urchins, all manner of otters to make beautiful fur coats out of. And the salmon, that's the main thing that sustained these people and made them wealthy. So they had excess. They weren't just living hand to mouth. The salmon would come in. Various runs of salmon would come in up the river. You'd smoke those and preserve those, and you'd have those throughout the winter. And boy, if you think winter in Seattle is spooky and rainy and damp and cold, imagine going up a few hundred or 1,000 miles up north to the northern tip of Vancouver Island. That's where the remainder of the Kwakiutl tribe lives, and we're just going to concentrate on them for this show. There's no time to do justice to all the various groups, Aboriginal groups, that were here long before, the Europeans came and fucked things up. And so here we go. It's Doomed Planet, episode 17, Potlatch, Aboriginal Excess. And I've got to be honest with you, it is Tuesday, April 7th, 2020, and the entire world is in a bad way. And if Hunter Thompson was alive to know that today they are actually going to go ahead with the Wisconsin Democratic primary, which would be Bernie Sanders versus a senile old stuffed suit named Joe Biden, who is in the employ of credit card companies and the for-profit healthcare industry. He's suffering from dementia. I mean, it's right there for everyone to see. But did I mention we're in a pandemic and then people need to stay indoors and not go out and vote? It's nuts. Boy, it'd be hard for me to do justice to the Potlatch. So this episode is really just, we're going to touch on that and also look at current events. Imagine if I had 8 or 10 hours a day and I was being compensated to do a podcast. It would be the best weekly podcast ever. And when they do pass the Green New Deal, hopefully it'll be like the WPA of the 30s. There will be money for artists and podcasters. And so this could be my job, but we'll see. Anyway, the Kawakawakawa, it's hard to pronounce some of these Indian names. We're going to call them the Kwakiutls. And they had potlatches. It's a giant feast. All the local tribes did it, and it involves giving away or destroying wealth to demonstrate how fucking rich you are. So it's odd. I mean, we romanticize these people. Have always loved reading about Pacific Northwest Aboriginal people. Their beautiful and amazing art, and then just their wild life of I wouldn't say excess, but they had it good compared to people in the rest of the world, say 1,000 years ago. You had the salmon coming in. Did I mention that? Yes, because it's 3:30 in the morning and I'm drinking some homemade cider and it's horrible, but I feel like I got to do a fucking podcast once a week for my fans. And that would be JP, shout outs to you, and also Kay and Geronimo, my beloved friends who are now living somewhere near Bellingham, Washington, on a boat with a pirate radio studio on the boat where I am right now broadcasting the Doom Planet podcast. This is nuts. Let's go on. So, of course, we need to talk about the white guy. That would be Franz Boas. He founded the field of cultural anthropology, and he went and lived with some of these Pacific Northwest tribes. We could do 1,000,000 hours just on him, but he came up with the idea of cultural relativism. That means that you don't rank cultures based on where they are in their evolution. Like, oh, these people are still in the Stone Age and therefore they are inferior to us. It would be the founding principle of the British Empire as well. We can take over these people and exploit them because after all, they aren't at the same advanced stage of society. So Boas went and studied and wrote about the Kwakiutls during the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition or Chicago World's Fair. Sort of on a dark note, he was asked to contribute a exhibit, and so it was one of those live native exhibits where he had 14 Kwakiutls come and perform and wear their sealskin clothing and show how to use a kayak. His contribution is vast, and again, these Aboriginals didn't really have a written language as we know it, and so a lot of this would be lost to history, and that's where we have to talk about another white guy, and that would be Edward Curtis. Not as much of an academic as Boas, more of a adventurer and entrepreneur, but he made a film in 1914 called In the Land of the Headhunters, and this is the oldest surviving feature film made in Canada, and much of it was rediscovered in 1947, but it's sort of a Mondo Cane exploitation film in a way, that a documentary in a way, but also staged scenes and scripted stuff in there, but you do get to see actual Kwakiutls. And you get to see them, with their art, and they're doing some canoeing and stuff. Now, the whole headhunter stuff is racist bullshit. I guess that was designed to get people into theaters. The film, by the way, was a failure, and he lost a lot of money on it. I think it cost $75,000, which is a fortune in 1914 to make the film, and he only made a few thousand back. And then he donated the film to the Field Museum in Chicago, I believe. But the whole headhunter thing, now the Kwakiutls they're storytelling people, and they do have a legend of cannibalism that is in their, the stories they pass down, but there's no evidence of anyone witnessing that, and that there's no evidence that occurred. Maybe it did occur 1,000 years ago, when that slave I was talking about was on the beach eating oysters, enjoying a moment of freedom. Yes, and they did practice slavery. So also the whole concept of the Potlatch, this wild festival where the wealthy people proved their wealth through gift giving and burning stuff, burning fish oil, gallons and gallons and gallons of fish oil, burning artwork. The Canadian government, being dicks, of course, outlawed Potlatch. So no more rituals. They didn't like that. It was not what the white people in Canada wanted. In 1884, they passed the Potlatch Prohibition Act. It was not rescinded until 1951. Anyway, In the Land of the Headhunters, that's available for you to watch online, and it's profoundly spooky in a way. In 1889, Boas published a book called The Houses of the Kwakiutl Indians, British Columbia, by Dr. Franz Boas. And he has elaborate sketches and drawings of the houses and the artwork. Yeah, these are no teepees, my friend. These are beautiful, very large, elaborate log cabins. Their society was advanced in its own way, other than the slavery. And of course, we could do a million hours of podcasting about how the artwork was much prized. I mean, it's beautiful stuff, and not just totem poles, but jackets, masks. This stuff was much prized by the white people, and much of it was pillaged. Some of these totem poles were just uprooted and stolen. But again, pandemic-wise, by the time large amounts of white settlers started coming into the Pacific Northwest region, all these tribes were decimated. Had empty villages, and that's because the first hunters and trappers brought those European diseases that the natives had no immunity to, and it really thinned out the herd. That's why I like to imagine the Kwakiutl 1,000 years ago, before all those troubles. In 1895, Franz Boas published what is the seminal work in cultural anthropology, The Social Organization and the Secret Societies of the Kwakiutl Indians. And he goes deep into the potlatch, deep into all their rituals. Of course, that book is in the public domain, so you go check it out. The Kwakiutl are divided into a great many tribes, which are in their turn subdivided into septs and clans. Each clan of the Kwakiutl proper derives its origin from a mythical ancestor who descended from heaven, arose from the underworld, or emerged from out of the ocean. Their crests and privileges, which will be discussed later on, are based upon the adventures of their ancestors from whom they are supposed to have descended. Anyway, this book is lavishly illustrated with photos and drawings. It's really a must-read. It's many hundreds of pages. And again, apologies to the descendants of these people, because I can't do justice to the tribe on this podcast, or even to the concept of a potlatch, which is fairly elaborate. But again, Boas and his people lived with the Kwakiutl for many years, and they describe in great detail all of their legends. There's even sheet music based on their songs. So at least we have that. I say that because in the media at the time, of course, you're going to get the sensational headhunter aspect. The mainstream media at the time, they're going to play up the sensational aspects, of course. We have the Wheeling Intelligencer, January 9th, 1915. Our Reformed Alaskan Headhunters. It's like a full-page feature with lots of art. First photographs of the secret religious ceremonies of our Kwakiutl Indians, who have given up neck chopping but still insist upon eating their mummies and walking on red-hot log. So none of those three things is true. And neck chopping, that's a nice to know. We have the New York Tribune in 1904. Cannibal rites. Initiation into Northwest Indian secret society is painful. Writing about these Aboriginals, but they're getting stuff wrong, kind of does a disservice to the reader. But again, racist old-time newspapers. So, of course, the racist old-time newspapers are going to distort Franz Boas's cultural relativism, which again basically means don't judge other cultures based on where your culture is at. Here in the Evening Star, April 28th, 1936, Dr. Boas reports fruits of 25-year study of racial stocks. America has been a real melting pot of races. Dr. Franz Boas, professor of anthropology at Columbia University, recognized as one of the world's foremost authorities presented to the National Academy of Sciences today the fruits of a 25-year study on the amalgamation of racial stocks in the American complex. Again, Boas was born in Germany and to a Jewish family, but they kind of dropped the Jewish part, and he moved to the United States to study the Kwakiutl and then never left, ended up at Columbia University. His findings are that in bodily form, habits, mentality, criminal tendencies, and many other characters, the European immigrants tend strongly toward an American pattern. As examples, he cited the Jewish shrug of the shoulders and the Italian habit of talking with the hands, both of which habits have been made much of by cartoonists and comic actors. Both, Dr. Boas said, are of great antiquity in Europe. The Italian gestures especially have come down from Roman days. In both races, he found a very rapid transition to typical American gestures. The same is true of bodily traits. In every European population transferred to an American environment, he said, these do not remain stable but shift to the American norm. Heredity, Dr. Boas concluded, unquestionably plays a very significant part in the bodily characteristics and behavior of the individual, but it becomes of much less significance when applied to whole populations. I don't want to leave out George Hunt. He, born 1854, died 1933. Franz Boas credits him in some of his books. He collaborated with Boas and was kind of like his liaison. He's half English and half Tlingit. He was an interpreter, and so, without Hunt, there would be no Franz Boas. He wrote tens of thousands of pages of ethnological description for Boas, according to Wikipedia. And again, in the late 19th and early 20th century, wealthy people began to collect Pacific Northwest art and totem poles. According to Wikipedia, Chicago businessman James L. Kraft, founder of Kraft Incorporated, donated a Kwakiutl totem pole to the city of Chicago. And it was installed there in 1929. So Seattle is not the only city with these stolen totem poles. So it's a 40-foot high pole. And it started deteriorating, and then they sent it back to British Columbia to a museum so they could study it. So we live in a disjointed, chaotic world, and that's why there's no script written for this episode. Again, I want to devote 8 or 10 hours a day to this 5 days a week, but I got kids to protect and whatnot. I do want to mention, in the spirit of that anarchy, the Guillotine, or candlefish. This is basically a smelt. It's a small, long, thin, oily fish, and they call it a candlefish because you put a wick or some twine in there after you dry it out, and you got a candle. Yeah, things might not have smelled that good inside the Kwakiutl log houses if your candles are made out of an oily, smelly fish. Of course, that would be my cultural relativism at work or not at work, frowning upon someone else's culture. I actually, if I wasn't living in ancient Rome, I might want to be hanging out with the Kwakiutl. Seafood, I love their art, and I live in Seattle, so I like a spooky, rainy environment, and would have been sweet. It reminds me, the world capitalism has shut down, and so the air quality in Seattle right now is incredible. Let's keep that. Let's keep those gas-guzzling cars off the road. And I imagine 1,000 years ago, not up in British Columbia, but in Seattle, the air would have been incredible. You had wood fires here and there, but, it's not a hugely populated place at that time. Can you imagine? And can you imagine, do you think the salmon tasted better? no microplastics in their gullet. The Tacoma Times, December 12th, 1914. There's an ad for the Tacoma Theater. C. H. Harold, manager. C. W. McKee, business manager. 3 days, starting Thursday, December 17th, and popular matinee Saturday. The World's Film Corporation presents In the Land of the Headhunters. Edward S. Curtis, Indian epic photodrama. 8,000 feet of excitement, color, and romance by the world's master photographer. Acted entirely by natives of the northern seas. Prices, evenings, 25 cents and 50 cents. Saturday matinee, 25 cents. I don't know if you love abalone, but it's a delicious thing. They're raising them on farms, so to speak. So because they're fished out, and if you think of abalone, you might think of these beautiful shells that you see that are 8 or 12 inches across. But the more common variety of abalone is smaller, about 4 inches long, and delicious. The meat is delicious, super sweet. If you go to the Grand Forks Herald in North Dakota, January 6, 1922, there's a recipe for abalone chowder. So maybe some of these abalone were getting shipped by train to North Dakota. We can hope so. This recipe will work for any chowder. You want to fry in a deep iron pan a cup of finely chopped bacon. Then you add a clove of garlic, half a cup of onions. Cook those up. Then you boil 3 cups of minced abalone meat in 2 cups of water until tender. Heat up 3 cups of milk and add to the abalone with the onions, garlic, and bacon. Add some olive oil. And I was making a roux here. Heat 6 tablespoons of olive oil in a saucepan. And when hot, stir in half a cup of flour. And when well blended, stir into the chowder to thicken that. Then season with minced parsley, salt, and black pepper, and serve with oyster crackers, which apparently existed in 1922. And that recipe will work with any mollusk, clam, scallop, anything. So again, apologies to the Kwakiutls, to the ancestors of the people I'm talking about. If you go on the internet, you'll see the Kwakiutl Band Council. We are the Kwakiutl. We have lived here on the northeastern shores of Vancouver Island since time immemorial. Our ancestors hunted and fished on these lands and waters, and developed a rich culture through which they celebrated the diversity of life around them. We continue to be strong by honoring all that our ancestors have taught us. You look on Google Earth and you see that these people are not wealthy. It's very isolated on the northern tip of Vancouver Island. Okay, this is dark. Kwakiutl First Nation COVID-19 updates. March 27th update. Security checkpoint. The EOC, along with Chief and Council, take the security and wellness of our members very seriously. For those that live in Sakis, we have hired an independent security company to man our checkpoint 24/7. Sakis community will be open to residents, essential service providers, and first responders only, no exceptions. Visitors, including family members, tourists, and the like, will not be permitted on the reserve. Be advised there will be no vehicle access to our community from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. It was under careful consideration, especially for our elders and littles, that these decisions were made. The EOC team is doing the best we can to secure our village. We have a no trespassing signs going up this weekend at the Thomas Point access, the trail going to Beaver Harbor Road, and our front checkpoint. Once again, the Aboriginals are being menaced by a plague from the outside. It's frightening and sad. Speaking of frightening and sad, we're going to move on from the Quack-Utils and talk a little about Seattle. This is the Seattle True Crime Podcast. So the Fred Meyer supermarket in Kent 2 days ago, packed with people. Some are wearing masks, some are wearing gloves, some aren't. The poor woman that brought out our groceries to our car from our order that took several days to process looked frightened. And at the pot shop, I might have mentioned, is a guy with a gun strapped to his leg, security dick of some kind. And on the abalone chowder note, potato soup. I got a 50-pound bag of potatoes going, and if you want to make potato soup, cook up some bacon, and then chop up some onions and fry those up in the bacon fat and the bacon. Then set that aside, then boil your potatoes, drain off a bunch of the moisture. You can use like a wand blender to process those until they're good and soupy. Then add your bacon and stuff and add some milk or cream and some spices and you're good to go. I actually added carrots too.
Yo, I'm a tortilla.
I'm a tortilla, baby. I got cheese.
I got beans.
I got the little bit of meat and
sour cream.
Podcast shout out to the Jimmy Dore Show. Love that guy. Has the courage to call out Nancy Pelosi and even Bernie Sanders for that last catastrophic multi-trillion-dollar corporate welfare bill.
Podcast shout out. Podcast shout out.
Our sponsor this week is Fred's Guillotine Supplies of Sedro-Woolley, Washington.
And now, advertising from our sponsor.
Head Chopper Super Center. Head Chopper Super Center. I'm Fred in Sedro-Woolley, Washington. I've been making guillotines my whole life. Miniatures, full scale, double scale, triple head slots. Come on down. I'm Fred. Fred's Guillotine Supplies. Head Chopper Super Center. Yeah. Okay, let's just end this dark episode on a silly note. And all of our lives are a dark episode right now. Seattle radio personality and former child star Danny Bonaduce posted something on Twitter. It's a picture of him holding his book, Random Acts of Badness, My Story, by Danny Bonaduce. So we posted, yeah, this platform needs more silliness. And cocaine abuse stories. Love me some Il Duce. And from now on, Danny, you are no longer the douche man. You are Il Duce. You've earned that. And I'm sorry I can't listen to your radio show because I have already heard some of these Led Zeppelin songs 100 billion times.
You know I love you, baby. And that's why it's time to get funky.
Did I mention that's former Seattle restaurateur Tom Douglas? He had to lay off 850 people, but now he's salvaging the business by doing something called Serious Eats. It's going to be takeout only pizza and sandwiches, and it's going to be expensive, so it's going to be for people that can afford that. Legendary fancy restaurant Canlis has also got a lot of publicity doing this takeout only situation. And again, I admire a small family run business, but that is for people that can afford it. Meanwhile, at the herb farm in Woodinville, they are on a daily basis making meals and delivering them to hospitals for the doctors and nurses on their own dime. And if you don't know the herb farm, it's been there for decades. They grow some of their own produce out back, and it's a well-respected place. I know that Danny Bonaduce has been there because I saw it on Twitter. Did you know that ocean quahogs is a type of clam? The binomial nomenclature is Arctica islandica. They can live for hundreds of years.
I'm a person. They're gonna kill us all. I wish I was shorter because they like people that are tall.
This has been the Doomed Planet podcast, episode 17, Potlatch, Aboriginal Excess. You can find more at doomedplanet.com, but that just bounces to our Twitter right now. We're doomed, people. Goodbye.
Goodbye. This is